When he owned his land, he actually had 57 families who lived on his land and worked with him. And it was like a community. Whatever we needed was on our farm. We would put up peaches, we would put up peas and butter beans, and everybody got their share to carry them across the winter. It was like a utopia.
Modern farming requires debt in order to grow your crops, in order to collect a harvest. Over the past 100 years, the federal government has become more and more of a player in providing the credit to those farmers. Much of the administration of this federal money was done by locally elected committees. And what do we know about voting in the South at that time? We know black people could not vote. The people who ended up controlling all that were the great-grandchildren of the plantation owners. And why would they ever give a black farmer money to start his own farm? And so between 1950 and 1969, black farmers lose something on the order of 6 million acres of land across the country. But the Scots were able to hold on to most of their land until the farm crisis of the 1970s and 1980s.
Rising fuel costs, increasing cost of production, new taxes, these changes will have a significant impact on the well-being of family farmers. Federal legislators are slashing farm programs to pay for the deficit.
As farming in America collapses in the 70s and 80s, there's a lifeline in the Mississippi Delta: catfish. The federal government, they pour a whole bunch of money into taking these poor white farmers who are struggling, getting them into catfish. The people who are left out of that are the black farmers. Ed Scott Jr. sees what's happening. He sees catfish as a way out. He converts most of his farms into 8 giant catfish ponds with no help from the federal government. He digs them himself. He builds the very first catfish plant owned and operated by an African American in the United States. And it becomes this inspirational story across the South of a black person who has literally beat all the odds to create something new.
Some people say our trade-in process feels too easy. They can't believe it's 100% online.
My dad loved clothes, and he loved to dress. Even on a daily basis, he wore what we call khaki suits, which would have been a khaki shirt with matching pants, and they had to be starched and ironed. He always had a nice new car, but he kept it closed up in a shed so no one would know he had it. He did not commingle, meaning white people would call staying in your place. Well, no black's supposed to have a car.
There's gonna come a time when they think you're uppity. And that's exactly what happened to the Scots.
It wasn't just because we were black, it's because we was doing so well in farm. We were doing so well.
Blacks were never successful at getting enough money to farm with from USDA. So when they went in to get the money for the crop, they gave them half of what they need, which was the way of keeping blacks from being successful. Because if you're gonna grow beans and you say, I need this much for fertilizer, I need this much for crop protection, I need this much for seeds, and I need this much for watering, and you only get half of that, there's no way for you to produce a good crop.
Yeah, they used to try to buy no land in Mississippi. You never own no land in Mississippi. The white people ain't gonna let you own no land in Mississippi. That's what the county agent will tell me.
It's documented. They did not offer him the same loan terms. They regularly offered him much smaller loans than they did white farmers in the area.
The county agent, he refused to give him a loan. So he could not feed his fish, could not water his crops. They foreclosed on his land.